Hey guys, welcome to Tales from the Stage, and this is a series I started recently that chronicles the stories from some of the gigs that I've done over the course of my career. The good, the bad, the ugly, the absolutely unusual, and the funny as well. This story that I'm going to tell today, this gig, is one of the most unique gigs that I have done over the course of my career, where there were things that happened at this gig that have never happened anywhere else so far. So this gig goes a little ways back into my career. This was probably somewhere around 2007, 2008. I don't have the exact date because I honestly can't remember back that far. But I can tell you the band that I was working with at the time, and it was a band called The Beam. And it was basically a four-piece covers band. Myself, Jess, and Chris, and also Luke. And we had a really great time. We did a lot of great gigs around the Brisbane area, and we tend to stick with a lot of the standard covers songs that you would find most covers bands were playing at the time. You know, all the way back to late 60s, early 70s, all the way up to current music at the time. So we did do some great gigs, and we did do some gigs that didn't go as well. Now this particular gig, and I can't really give the venue away because I'm not exactly going to paint these guys in a positive light. But this particular gig, Luke Pemberton, the drummer, a great mate of mine, he couldn't do this gig. Stuart Milton, who's also a great mate of mine, filled in for him on drums. This particular gig was not too far out from where I live, so that was definitely a positive for this gig here, in that it was still in Brisbane City, and well, really just outside of Brisbane City, I should say, and roughly about a half an hour drive from where I live. But that's without traffic. Now, any Friday night gig, you really have to leave a little bit earlier because you are going to hit Friday afternoon traffic here in Brisbane, Australia. It's just the nature of the beast. It doesn't matter whether you go north, whether you go south, whether you go west, you're just going to hit traffic everywhere. So unfortunately, it did take a little bit longer to get to this venue than what I wanted it to. But I remember I did show up at the venue, and just outside, I noticed there was a few cars parked, but it was generally a little bit quieter than what I would normally expect. And when I walked inside and had a little bit of a look around, the kind of vibe for the venue was, you know, just a few people knocking off work early on a Friday afternoon, having a few drinks, hanging with mates, very, very chill sort of atmosphere. And I looked over in the corner of the venue and I noticed that Stu, Chris and Jess were setting up their music gear, but there was no actual stage. It was basically just the band was set up on the floor in the corner of the room. So we all continued setting up gear, and we were chatting at the time and just hanging out, being very friendly. And once we were doing sound check, we started to notice that there were less people in the venue by this point. And gradually, one by one, people were leaving. Now, by the time we rolled around to starting the gig, which it was an earlier gig, I can't remember the exact time of where we started, but it was somewhere around 7:30, 8 o'clock, you know, something like that. We started playing, and the few people that were in the bar were kind of enjoying it. I honestly didn't think we sounded too bad, to be honest. When you're playing a lot of standard cover songs, the most important thing, or the two most important things that you can do, is pretty much stay in key and stay in time. There's not really much else to it. So it's, in my opinion, it's kind of hard to sound bad when you're playing some of these cover songs, if that makes sense. So I thought we sounded fine, and you know, we were having a good time, obviously playing and, you know, doing our thing. And one by one, the people kept leaving. We got into the second set, and we were halfway through an AC/DC number, just trying a few different songs in the set just to kind of break things up a little bit. And all of a sudden, I looked up and I noticed, oh, hang on. There's nobody in this venue right now, and all that was left was just some bar staff. Now, I've done gigs where I've played to 10,000, 20,000 people, and I've also done gigs where you play to bar staff. The bar staff hung around for another song, and then they went out the back. And so we were halfway through the second set, and there was nobody in the venue, not even bar staff. And I turned to Stu, Chris, and Jess, and I said, what do we do? What do we do right now? What are you supposed to do when there's no one in the venue? Do you keep playing, or do you stop and take a break? We just had no idea what to do. So we decided to get a little bit experimental with the set list, and we decided to almost treat the gig like it was a paid rehearsal. There were some people that eventually came up, opened the door, and came into the venue, and so we stopped that song, and then we restarted, you know, our regular set list. And they went up to, you know, where the tables were and sort of hung out and sort of watched us play for a little bit.
Thank you. You're marvelous.
And then they went out the back to, I guess, where the pokie machines were, or the TAB was, or something like that. And once again, there was nobody left in the venue. And so the rest of the gig sort of played out like this, where we were just hanging out. And I'm laughing at the moment because looking back on it now, it's so funny how this gig actually played out, because it's just so unusual. But at the time, I remember I was very frustrated, and I remember Stu was very frustrated as well. And we're all just tired, and we just wanted to get out of there, even though it wasn't really a late gig. Like, after Pack Down, it must have been around midnight, 12:30, something like that. So, you know, when you're doing gigs, that's not really a late time to be finishing. And we packed down, and the venue manager came over. I can't remember this dude's name, but he was very enthusiastic. He could see how upset we were, and he just came over and just kept sort of saying how great the night was, how awesome we sounded, and how the bar did quite a bit of business that night as well, so a lot of drinks went out, and he was just really talking the whole night up, and we were just like, yep, cool, man, cool, that's cool. And he just kept wanting to get us back, and we were just kind of like, nah, I don't think we'll be doing that. But whenever I mention the name of the venue to either Stu, Chris, or Jess, we just crack up laughing, because it's just one of those gigs that we'll remember forever. Now, this particular gig was one of the lowest paid gigs that I've ever done in my career, and I also believe at the time that it was a late payer as well, meaning the venue didn't pay until much later than past the standard invoice date. So, yeah. So guys, do you have any gig stories? Be sure to let me know in the comments below if you've got any funny gig stories, as I love chatting this stuff, and I'll be sure to be doing more of these videos for this series, because some of these stories are just insane. And of course, guys, if you dug this video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe as well, because it helps the channel out a great deal. And of course, more videos coming soon, guys. And until next time, don't forget, support the artist, buy the music. Rock on.